Good afternoon. The timing of my presentation is actually perfect, considering this past week, people around the world have been celebrating Autism Acceptance Week. And tomorrow, the United Nations kicks off Autism Awareness Month. I have the pleasure of serving as the secondary principal at the International School of Tanganyika. Several years ago, we were introduced to this metaphor by Vernon Myers, a metaphor that describes the difference between diversity and inclusion. As a diverse school community, we are continually trying to become more inclusive and inviting everyone in our community to the dance. We also realize the importance of an environment that creates a sense of belonging for all of our members. 5 years ago, I embarked on a journey, and a learning journey, and I was looking into a world that was very, very unfamiliar to me, but yet fascinating. In my quest, I've come to see the value of neurodiversity in our society, and I'm continually amazed by how differently wired people bring a different perspective to the table. As a neurotypical human being and educator, I am advocating for a shift in how our society views autism spectrum disorder and autistic individuals. It is frustrating to see how historically our society has discriminated against and marginalized these types of individuals. These individuals didn't even make the guest list to the party, and it's time for that to change. Autism spectrum disorder, ASD, is a neurodevelopmental condition involving challenges with social communication, restricted interests, and repetitive behaviors. It's a simple definition for a very complex condition. It's important to note the difference between a disorder and a disease. Diseases have vaccines and cures. Disorders are things you live with for life. In 2013, the American Psychiatric Association used spectrum to describe there's a wide range of individuals who are diagnosed, and they present differently in terms of social skills, routines, fixations, sensory issues, depression, and aggression. In the world of the autism community, there's a famous quote: if you've met one individual with autism, you've met one individual with autism. In a world where no two individuals are the same, why would we ever expect an autistic or autistic individuals to look and act the same? ASD is the fastest growing disorder in the world. It is believed that for years and centuries and generations, there have been differently wired people, neurodivergent people, even those who fit the criteria of autism, but went undiagnosed. It didn't become an official disorder until the 1940s. Now, with greater public awareness and improved knowledge on health professionals' parts, this has led to an increase in individuals being diagnosed. The Center for Disease Control in the United States has studied for years 8-year-olds, and they've gone back and looked at the records to see whether or not the child has been diagnosed. In 2016, they found that there was one autistic child per 65 children. By 2018, it was 1 per 44 children. And the most recent statistics, 2020, 1 per every 36 children. This data does not even include those individuals who are diagnosed later on in life. With this data, we now have confirmation that we are living in a more neurodiverse world. So, what will it take? What will it take for societal beliefs around autism and autistic individuals to change so that we can thrive at the dance party? What will it take? It will take neurotypical human beings developing a greater sense and understanding of ASD and autistic individuals. Our 8th graders are currently reading The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. The novel is about a 15-year-old boy with autism, and the boy is actually the narrator of the book. We know that literature can open windows for the reader, and it can lead to even greater empathy and understanding for those who are different. Our students are getting a glimpse into the boy's thinking and actions based on being wired differently, a perspective that's foreign to many of our students. This can make a huge difference in how they view autistic individuals. Our teachers realize the value of this learning experience and have this statement of inquiry. Carefully examining a character will help us to better appreciate their differences in order to foster greater acceptance in the world. This is really important if this shift is going to happen. This is Rebecca Faith Quinn. She's an actress, a writer, autistic activist, feminist. Recently, Rebecca posted on Instagram a video describing her shopping experience. She's going to buy a dress or an outfit. Rebecca describes what it's like for someone with a coexisting condition called sensory processing disorder. It's a condition related to how the brain processes stimuli. This means that the person is overly sensitive to one or more of the following: what they hear, what they see, what they smell, taste, or touch. As I'm describing her experience, I want you to think about your typical trip to go clothes shopping and think about how it relates to hers. Rebecca is in an urban setting. She's on the sidewalk. There's many people around. She starts it out with, there's so much noise. There's all this noise going around. How am I supposed to think? She walks down the sidewalk and there's a grate with air blowing out of it. And she says, how am I supposed to exist in a society where the wind doesn't even follow the rules? She gets to the store, she walks into the store, and she's confronted by loud music. She unsuccessfully searches for a place in the store where there are no speakers. She compares the lighting to flashlights being shined in her eyes. And she mildly freaks out when someone sets off the anti-theft system, and she seeks to find comfort in touching a safe texture that feels comforting to her. Inside the store, she starts looking for an outfit. She starts by going and touching the fabric to see if it's a fabric that will feel comfortable on her body. She chooses 2 outfits. The first dress feels very comfortable on her. She feels good in that. But she doesn't really like the way it looks. The second outfit, she chooses a fabric that's uncomfortable. She puts it on. It just doesn't quite feel right on her. But it looks nice. She ends up choosing looks over comfort. This is just one excursion out of the house, going shopping. How does this compare to your typical shopping experience? Exposure to experiences like Rebecca's helps us better understand what life is like for others. I suggest that our 8th graders collaborate with people like Rebecca in planning the party. And then they'll consider many of the anxiety-inducing factors that people can face. Consider the impact that everyday life in a neurotypical world has on autistic individuals. A recent study shows that 94% of autistic adults reported experiencing anxiety. Of those, 60% reported it affected their ability to get on in life. In terms of depression, 83% autistic adults reported experiencing depression, and 50% of those said it had a high impact on their ability to get on with life. Rebecca's example is just one that shows how a trip to a neurotypical store designed for neurotypical individuals can create high levels of anxiety. And this is only looking at one coexisting condition, right? There are many that autistic individuals can face. What is it going to take? Second, individuals who embrace their autistic identity and understand their conditions. So many recently diagnosed people share that they are relieved when they finally receive their diagnosis. For the first time in their lives, things finally make sense. It explains many of the challenges they've faced in their life. Pair this with a greater understanding of their condition and their strengths, and you have someone who is empowered to take control. I realize that this seems like common sense, self-awareness and all of that. But the challenges and barriers for individuals facing this are enormous. It is very, very difficult to even get an assessment to lead to a diagnosis. They are expensive and they can be cost prohibitive. There's a lack of health professionals, so there's a long wait time to get assessed. There are stories of conflicting information. One assessment says, yep, autism diagnosis. One later on, well, we're not sure, which sows doubts in the individual's mind. Historically, females and persons of color have failed to be diagnosed. I am happy to report in the last CDC research study, that the gap, those 8-year-olds, the gap between whites and persons of colors had been closed. But males are 4 times more likely than females to be diagnosed. Finally, after decades of persons with autism being stigmatized and marginalized, many reject the diagnosis. They refuse to see themselves as that stereotypical autistic individual. This is why those who embrace their autistic identity are success stories. This is Lauren Melissa Elzey, autistic self-advocate and author. Her diagnosis gave her the words to describe her experience, words that did not involve hating herself or being forced to hide. She was diagnosed at the age of 23, and she said the diagnosis saved her life. She describes herself as unique, innovative, perceptive, disabled, and different. And her quote is very powerful here. If others cannot see me as whole, as who I am, then I will proudly declare my autism until there is true autism acceptance. It's people like Lauren who will influence others in the autism community and be a trailblazer in this neurotypical world. What's it going to take? It's going to take corporations and organizations embracing neurodiversity. There are a growing number of organizations that are hiring autistic individuals and realizing the values of those employees. There are organizations that assist in the hiring process. And there are others that provide specialized workforce training to prepare individuals for the workplace. Considering the recent data out of the United Kingdom that 71% of autistic adults are unemployed, this change is desperately needed. Dorkelson, he's father of a son with autism, founded Specialistern in Denmark. Specialistern is about harnessing the talents of people with autism and using that as a competitive advantage for those companies. Their goal is to fill 1 million jobs with autistic people. And Dorkel says, if society won't change, I will change society. Specialistern is changing the recruiting process by helping companies. They work on developing clear, concise job descriptions without jargon that people can understand. They work to create skills-based assessments so that candidates can demonstrate their skills to make them show they can do the job. These two things remove barriers that exist in our traditional recruitment process. They also work with companies to develop an awareness of ASD and to help them create an environment so these individuals can be successful. They are totally revamping the hiring process and matching up the right autistic individual with the right position in the right setting. Specialistern is showing how companies can benefit from this increased neurodiversity in their workforce, and they're already in 12 different countries. As I Am has set the gold standard model for creating autism-friendly environments. Adam Harris, a person with autism, and his team work with all types of organizations around the world. They're located in Clonakilty, Ireland. Clonakilty has actually become the first ever autism-friendly town. Some of the initiatives that they've taken on is about creating improved environments by creating clear signage in the town and also creating a public sensory garden. They're implementing public awareness by hosting an annual Autism Awareness Day, an ongoing lecture series, and they are providing autism awareness workshops for every single student in that town. They provide self-advocacy training for young adults and growing employment opportunities for autistic people. And they promote autism-friendly standards with local businesses. One example is Super Value Grocery Store. One day a week, in the night, they shut down, and they don't shut down, but they become autism-friendly. They dim the lights. They turn off the music. They get rid of all the other background noise that's going on, including, I guess, the red shopping trolleys whose wheels make a lot of noise. Clonakilty has already shifted the paradigm in their community, and they are embracing this new view on life. Throughout the world, these new dance parties are just getting started, and the potential for everyone to benefit is great. All of us can play a role in shifting the paradigm, and even small contributions can make a difference. I hope that one day, each and every one of us receives the invitation to dance at a party that's more reflective of our neurodiverse world. It will definitely look and feel different than what we're used to, but that is long overdue. Thank you.